What's going on, guys? JSGC here, and we are here for another Manchester City football video. This time we're going to be speaking about Eric Garcia and what the future will hold for him. It's nice to be back on camera, isn't it? So we're going to crack on with this video, and we're basically just going to have a discussion about how Manchester City may or may not utilise Eric Garcia, the opportunities that he's got coming for him in the future, and where I might see him in the future with Manchester City, or will it be elsewhere? So we're going to crack on with this video. If you don't know a lot about Eric Garcia, he might be the next big thing at Manchester City. 18-year-old Spanish centre-back. He's made 3 appearances so far this season in the League Cup for Manchester City, and I'm sure for next season he'll be pushing for more. So I'm wondering if he's going to get a lot more game time in pre-season for Manchester City, and then heading into next season, see where we stand from there. So he's made 3 appearances in the League Cup. We've won the League Cup. It's a little bit... It's okay. It's okay. I would imagine for next season, Eric Garcia, if we should get to the final or win it again, which we have done for the last couple of seasons, then he might be looking for more than just 3 appearances. He might be looking for 4, 5, even 6 appearances in the League Cup and looking to really try and make a statement. He's not made any progress in the FA Cup for Manchester City, so he might be looking to try and start 2 or 3 games in the FA Cup too. So rather than making 3 appearances, senior appearances for Manchester City, he might be boosting his numbers up to maybe 7, 8, even 9, which is good progress for an 18-year-old. Let's not forget that Manchester City like to integrate their young players into their squad rather than rushing them through. Some players choose to leave to be rushed through and go to another club and get more opportunities, whereas Manchester City like to just take it slowly. So you manage to see a little bit of progress per season on the players. So like I said, Garcia 3 appearances, might be looking for 8 or 9 next season. He might be the season after looking for some Premier League appearances too, and Champions League appearances, and then take it from there. So 15 to 20, then up to 30, and then like a rotated player from there. So I feel like you're not going to get a true indication of a player's quality until maybe 3 or 4 seasons time, which is natural for a young player. Let's not forget players like Lionel Messi and that, they weren't playing week in, week out when they were 18 years old. He was playing for Pep Guardiola then, and he was integrated into the Barcelona squad. And that's just how it is. So for Eric Garcia, we brought him in from Barcelona. He's got a very mature head on him, I'll say that. He's a very calm and collective player. 5'11", not the tallest for a centre-back, but it's not uncommon for players to be of that height and make it as a centre-back. Our very own Nicholas Otamendi, who's managed to have a very successful career at centre-back, not being the tallest, and he's very dominant in the air too. Eric Garcia, a good passer. He also likes to tackle too. He's a vintage, in my opinion, Spanish centre-back. And so we're looking to make progress from there, and it's everything that you imagine Manchester City would be looking for in a centre-back. So you might be wondering, why hasn't Eric Garcia then got more minutes? And that's mainly due to age. 18 years old, like I said, Manchester City will look for a little bit more of a senior head onto him, and so the opportunities will be few and far between, and when he gets the opportunity, has to take them like that. And so I feel like over the next couple of seasons, it's a couple of big seasons for Eric Garcia. It's not just a couple of big seasons for him, he's also got a couple of big seasons coming up for Phil Foden too. I've already covered a video on him, so if you want to go and check that out, I'll leave the link to that at the end of this video if you want to go and check that out with my thoughts on Phil Foden and how he can progress with Manchester City. Now, one of the biggest opportunities that Eric Garcia has got coming up with Manchester City, in my opinion, is we've got a transfer ban looming right over the club. That could come from any time today. It could come over the next couple of months. We might be banned in the summer from signing any players, and in the winter window too. That could come afterwards, after the window. So after the summer window, we might be banned for the winter window and next summer's window. So there's opportunities here should Manchester City choose not to sign any players, or sign a centre-back in particular, then the opportunity will arise. And so it's very interesting because we've got Vincent Kompany that's getting no younger, Manchester City's captain, who has still not signed a contract extension, I will add, by the way. 12-month extension was meant to be close. That was weeks and weeks ago. It's still not been signed, so we might not even have Vincent Kompany at Manchester City come next season, and Nicholas Otamendi, who's into his 30s now too, and not getting any younger too. So there comes to a point where you're thinking, well, who is next? And that is exactly where Eric Garcia comes into it, and that's why I said a couple of seasons, try and get more senior appearances. It might be in a situation come 2 seasons time where Manchester City might be looking at centre-backs, and so perfect opportunity for him to come in. And if the transfer ban was to come in for example, for this summer and the winter window, so we've got no players, then that should leave some opportunities there for Eric Garcia. Rather than getting 6 or 7 cup games, might be able to get a few more appearances for Manchester City. The problem we've got with Pep is he likes versatility in his players. So we're looking at Kyle Walker, Fernandinho and Danilo, who have all this season at some point in some game played at centre-back for Manchester City, and in my opinion at this moment in time, particularly for senior games and matches of importance of Premier League and Champions League, then players will get priority over Eric Garcia. I'm not too sure why that is. I don't have an answer to that. I can only pull that down to experience and age, and Pep's looking for a little bit more experience and level-headedness on the pitch, and he doesn't know how Eric Garcia is going to respond. You could accuse Pep of saying that he doesn't trust the young players. I won't go that far in my opinion, but some people, I can understand why you would accuse him of that. I just don't think Pep wants to burn out these young players too soon, because it could be disastrous for their career if they do. They've got to be integrated slowly, because naturally when you're a young player you've not got the experience there, and so it becomes very difficult in being able to make big calls and big judgments. You may end up making some fatal errors. You may end up, because of you, losing games or dropping points, which is at this point in the season certainly City can't afford to be doing that. But you've got senior players that do it too, so I'm not too sure why we do that. It's almost like one of them situations where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But I'm using Phil Foden as the basis for Eric Garcia here. Phil Foden's been around Manchester City's squad for an extra season, and so he's been getting a couple of Premier League appearances. If City win the Premier League again, Phil Foden will be getting a Premier League winners medal, whereas Eric Garcia won't. And I'm looking over the next season or two for Eric Garcia to be getting at least 5 appearances in the Premier League, and if we should win the Premier League in that season that he does that, of him getting a Premier League medal, and then integrate him into the squad from there. And so I feel like Garcia might be a season or two behind where Phil Foden is at. I said Phil Foden needs to be patient. He's committed his future to Manchester City, and I expect in the summer for Eric Garcia to be integrated into the Manchester City squad. At the moment he's playing a lot of the under-23s, I think it is, and playing in the Premier League 2 or whatever it's called. He's been playing quite a few games in that, Eric Garcia. I imagine he'll want him in and around the first team squad more and more, learning from players like Kompany should he stay, and Laporte and John Stones and Otamendi too. He'll be wanting them to learn from these players, and so it's a good situation for Eric Garcia to be in, and that's the road we should be going down. He should be promoted to the City first team squad, be in and around the first team squad. I don't think he needs to be registered under the age of 21, but he's not been at Manchester City for 3 seasons just yet, so perhaps City are waiting for that, but I'm not too sure where we're going to go from there. From there, he's going to need more appearances, and he's going to have to be integrated into the squad, and City are going to be faced with a situation where I reckon in around 2 or 3 seasons time we won't have Vincent Kompany here anymore, and we won't have Nicolas Otamendi. And the problem I've got with them players leaving is City recently been linked with £60 million rated Matthias de Ligt of Ajax, who seems set for Barcelona. We've been linked with some players from Inter too for £85 million for one of their centre-backs. It's ludicrous amounts of money, and to me, it's daft. Why spend £85 million on a player and centre-back when, if we're patient and keep players on 12-month rolling contracts like Vincent Kompany, over the next couple of seasons, we could have a very good player in Eric Garcia who could fit into that situation. The club end up saving £85 million, and we've also promoted players, and we've got homegrown players coming through the academy and being trained by Manchester City from a young age. And so that's what we need to be doing, basically, in my opinion. What I'm wondering now, though, is will Manchester City loan Eric Garcia? Would a loan work or not? I'm not too sure. In situations we've seen players like Lucas Nemecha, who looked like he was on the verge of being promoted to Manchester City's first-team squad, to then last summer be loaned out. And so from there, what happens to Nemecha? Is he going to be sold from Manchester City? Is he going to come back? It's very difficult once you've been out on loan to come back to Manchester City and then stay at Manchester City. We've seen other players that have done very well out on loan. So Pablo Maffeo, who we ended up selling because he comes back on loan. You don't actually know how good he's going to be. You need a season or two to get used to Manchester City's playing style and minutes on the pitch and everything. And so it's time that these players don't really have. And we're looking at players like Angelino too. A left back was a situation where we need a player there. We let a left back go in Angelino. We ended up making some money on him, so I'm wondering if we're going to go down the same route with Eric Garcia too. We're going to loan him, then sell him. We're going to try and get his market value up. I'm not too sure. Is he going to be the next Matondo? Is he not going to make many senior appearances for City and be sold? Or is he going to be like Sancho, get promoted to the City team and then decide to leave anyway? And the problem we've got with young players is I feel like their minds and their heads are being twisted from places like Germany in particular, but other places like the Netherlands, France, in particular Monaco, and even for this instance Eric Garcia with Spain, because I imagine Spanish clubs will be very interested in him too. We're in a situation where they might offer him more minutes, and so he decides to leave Manchester City. And so we need to be doing something about this, where we can integrate young players. They know that they're going to make it at Manchester City, they know they're going to get minutes, and then they get to a point in their career where they need to make a decision at a more mature age, rather than at 17, 18 years old, but rather talking age, 20, even 19, 20, 21 years old, still a very young player, where we can still make some money and see what they're made of. What you don't want to do is what Brahim Diaz did. Left Manchester City, even though he's been integrated very nicely, in my opinion, into Manchester City's team. I'm guaranteed he'd have got more starts in the League Cup, in particular in games against Burton, had he not left. He'd have probably done some FA Cup games. He might have even made a couple of appearances in the Premier League, in particular when we was having some problems out wide, when Leroy Sané was, well, in and out of form. And so he might have got a couple more minutes. And instead, he's gone to Real Madrid, and it's not really worked out. Wouldn't surprise me if he was loaned out, and then where do you go from there? And it's just kind of delaying your own career. So it's important these young players make the right call, and to help them do that, they need to speak with professionals. And we've already got professionals there, coaches, players, well, coaches like Pep there can make good decisions. And so these players need to not have their minds twisted by minutes and more money and senior appearances. I feel like agents are just pushing that a little bit, because as well as Jadon Sancho's done at Borussia Dortmund, he's with a situation where the Bundesliga isn't the quality of the Premier League. He's been linked with big money moves back to the Premier League, including moves to Manchester United. It's a whole different kettle of fish from Dortmund to Manchester United. There'd be so much expectation on Jadon Sancho. He'll no longer be that young kid. He'd end up being that very expensive kid that needs to hit the ground running. He'd be under a lot of pressure. 2 or 3 bad appearances, and all of a sudden people are on your back, and then it becomes a whole different ball game, and then it's very easy then to go into your shell, and you end up becoming one of them flops. And so it's difficult. It's very difficult at a young player at a young age to be able to cope with that and be able to do that. And so it's up to, when they're young players, it's up to the clubs where they're currently at to do something about that. And I'm looking for Manchester City to do a little bit more, and perhaps learn the lessons from Brahim Diaz and Jadon Sancho, and be able to apply that. They've done it well with Phil Foden, be able to apply that with Eric Garcia, and give Eric Garcia more minutes, basically. So we're looking for him to be in the first team squad next season. We're looking for him to get more appearances in the League Cup and FA Cup, maybe 1 or 2 Premier League appearances too. Look at the season after, so he's getting towards 19, 20 years old, getting some regular Premier League minutes too, being able to get, 5 or 10 Premier League appearances would be nice. We'll be looking at a situation in 2 or 3 seasons time, like I said, we won't have Otamendi and company, so we might be looking at more minutes, and if it hasn't worked out by then, perhaps leaving Manchester City from there, because the market value won't be too dissimilar to what it is now for him and what it will be in a couple of seasons. So a big couple of seasons for Eric Garcia, a big couple of seasons for Manchester City in terms of decision making with their young players, transfer policy, and also this transfer ban. And so we're in a situation where if it's managed correctly by both Eric Garcia, his agent, and Manchester City, you may well be looking at a very, very good centre-back option in Eric Garcia, where it's cost us next to nothing, and that's the way it should be, and it should give other young players then the confidence to want to stay at Manchester City. So we're looking at a couple of young players here that need to make it at Manchester City to give the confidence for the younger players, so they're not tempted by more money and appearances from other clubs. And so Phil Foden and Eric Garcia, in my opinion, at this moment in time, are the 2 players that are capable of doing that. We'll have an answer, I'm sure, in 3 seasons' time. We're looking at, 2021, 2022. Like I said, we'll have a situation where we'll know the answer. And hopefully, everyone will manage the situation correctly, and everyone will be happier, and everyone will get what they want, which is more minutes for Eric Garcia, more minutes for Phil Foden, and Manchester City then can kick on with the academy. It takes years to get these things rolling, but still, I'm just looking for, basically, Manchester City to do more. So there we go. Please, I'd love to know your thoughts on this, though, in the comments below. So do let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, leave a thumbs up so I know you enjoyed this video. Press the red button, subscribe, and press the bell and put your push notifications on to be notified when I have uploaded. We're aiming for 2,500 subscribers. And at the moment in time of recording, we are 76 subscribers away. Thank you, everyone, for the continued support. Thank you for watching. And hopefully, we'll be able to hit 2,500 ASAP. It's been a slow week. It's international break, but we've got regular content coming back as of, tomorrow. We've got transfer news updates, we've got latest news, and then previews for the Fulham game towards the end of the week. Plenty of videos to look forward to. Check out my social media links in the description below. If you want to hit me with any sponsorships or any business enquiries, my email is also in the description below, which is jsgc171@gmail.com. So I'll see you all again for the next video. So it's been JSGC. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace. Ciao for now.